Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that everything you believed about yourself, your identity, your struggles, your ambitions, was nothing more than a carefully crafted illusion. What if the very concept of the self was just a trick of the mind? This idea might sound radical, even unsettling, but it's one of the core teachings of many spiritual and philosophical traditions. Today, we'll dive into the concept of the ego as an illusion, why trying to get rid of it is itself a paradox, and how understanding this can lead to a profound shift in how we live our lives. Many spiritual seekers believe that enlightenment comes from destroying the ego. But here's the paradox. The very act of trying to remove the ego reinforces its existence. Alan Watts, a philosopher who explored Eastern wisdom, often argued that the ego is like a mirage. It seems real when you chase it, but when you try to grasp it, it vanishes. Think about it. Who is trying to get rid of the ego? The ego itself. The idea of I need to stop identifying with my ego is still an act of identification. You are still reinforcing a sense of self that is separate from the world. This is why many spiritual traditions, including Zen Buddhism, emphasize that enlightenment is not something you achieve. It is something you realize when you stop trying so hard. In Christianity, mystical experience is considered a divine gift, not something that can be attained through effort alone. The idea is that human beings, by their very nature, cannot reach this state on their own. It is given by grace, not earned. This idea can be liberating because it suggests that the pressure to achieve enlightenment is unnecessary. If it comes, it comes. If it doesn't, that's okay too. This aligns with the teachings of Zen Buddhism, which suggests that trying to catch enlightenment is like trying to grasp smoke. The more you reach for it, the more it slips through your fingers. There's a Zen poem that perfectly captures this. You cannot catch hold of it, nor can you get rid of it. In not being able to get it, you get it. When you speak, it is silent. When you are silent, it speaks. This means that the very act of seeking enlightenment prevents you from realizing it. Instead, when you stop trying so hard, it naturally arises. It's like sleep. You can't force yourself to fall asleep, but when you stop trying, it happens effortlessly. We often believe that we are in control of our thoughts, emotions, and actions. But consider this. Do you consciously control your breathing, your heartbeat, the way your hair grows? No, these things happen on their own. Similarly, thoughts and emotions arise spontaneously. You don't choose your thoughts any more than you choose to make your heart beat. A great example of this is when people try meditation for the first time. They sit down, close their eyes, and attempt to clear their minds. What happens? The mind becomes more active than ever. The harder they try to silence their thoughts, the louder they become. Why? Because the very attempt to control the mind is a function of the mind itself. A well-known meditation teacher once asked his students to sit quietly and not think about a pink elephant. Of course, the moment they heard that, their minds were flooded with images of pink elephants. This is the nature of the mind. It resists force. The trick is not to fight thoughts, but to observe them. Let them come and go, just like clouds passing in the sky. Buddha taught that suffering arises from desire. People desire happiness, love, success, enlightenment, and when they don't get it, they suffer. The natural response is to try harder, to fight for what they want. But here's the problem. The very act of chasing something reinforces the idea that you don't already have it. Imagine you are in a river, struggling to swim upstream. The more you fight the current, the more exhausted you become. But what happens if you let go and allow the river to carry you? You realize that the struggle was unnecessary. The current was always taking you where you needed to go. This is what many spiritual teachers mean when they say, let go. It doesn't mean giving up on life. It means surrendering the illusion that you must fight for every moment of happiness. When you stop resisting reality, you begin to flow with it. One of the biggest misconceptions is that we are separate from the world around us. Language itself reinforces this illusion. We say, I think, I feel, I experience. But what if thinking, feeling, and experiencing are simply happening? What if the I is just a convenient way to describe a process rather than an actual entity? Consider the ocean. A wave rises, peaks, and falls back into the sea. If a wave had consciousness, it might think, I am a wave separate from the ocean. But in reality, the wave was never separate. It was always part of the ocean. The same is true for us. We think we are individual selves, but we are actually part of a much larger process. Years ago, I met an elderly monk who shared a simple yet powerful story. He said that as a young man, he was obsessed with the idea of achieving enlightenment. He meditated for hours, fasted, and read every spiritual text he could find. But no matter what he did, he always felt like he was missing something. One day, while sweeping the temple grounds, he had a sudden realization. There was nothing to achieve. The birds were chirping, the wind was blowing, and he was simply there, sweeping. In that moment, he laughed out loud. He had spent years searching for something that had been there all along. The enlightenment he was chasing was nothing more than the simple act of being present. So what does all this mean for us? It means that the key to inner peace isn't found in struggle, it's found in surrender. Not surrender in the sense of giving up, but surrender in the sense of letting go of the illusion of control. You don't need to fix yourself because you were never broken. You don't need to achieve enlightenment because it is not something to be achieved. The more you relax and stop forcing things, the more naturally they unfold. The next time you find yourself caught in anxiety or self-doubt, remember this: the wave is never separate from the ocean, and you are never separate from life itself. The ego is just a story we tell ourselves, and when we stop telling that story, all that's left is reality, pure, simple, and beautiful. I hope you found this video helpful. If you enjoyed today's content, don't forget to hit that like button. And if you think my content is valuable, consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps more people discover it. Thanks for watching, and I wish you and your family good health and peace. See you in the next video.